What I want to make is an Avenger style holster, and by no means am I an expert. I'm a total newbie at this. I've only tried this a couple of times. This will be like my third holster that I'm trying to make, and I just thought I'd put it on video and show you guys what I'm doing. As you can see, the gun is empty. And again, what I'm going to make is an Avenger style holster, and we'll get to that in a second. So what I have here is basically a vanilla folder, and what people have said online to do is draw a straight line down the center of the poster board or paper that you're using. Because it's a vanilla folder, I'm going to use that crease as my straight line. Draw a straight line. Now what I do is I take the sights, I put the sights directly on that line, and then slowly fold the gun over, or drop the gun over to the left. Now this is for a right-handed holster. If it was a left-handed holster, you would drop it to the right, and I'll show you why when I show you the pattern. I know it sounds confusing, but so at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the outline of the gun. You don't have to be perfect, but I have found in the couple that I have done that the more precise you are with everything in the beginning and in the middle, it's a lot easier to clean everything up. Alright, and there's the outline of the gun. I don't know if you can see that or not. My camera doesn't seem to like this yellow manila folder, so if it's kind of going funny on color, I apologize, but this is what I used. What I did then was I just basically came up with a pattern for the gun. There's a million different patterns online that you could follow or copy. I just figured myself, if I'm going to do the DIY thing, I want a pattern that I made that I can call my own, basically. And what I came up with was this pattern here. This is the main part of the holster. And basically the reason why you fold the gun to the left for a right-handed holster is because this is the front of the leather. You take this part and you fold it around, so then the gun's facing this way. Hope you can see it. I hope I was in frame. This piece here is basically for the belt slots and a stiffener to keep the holster, make it a little more rigid on the mouth of it, so when you're reholstering the gun, it'll stay open. You can do it one-handed. And later on we'll get into why all these drawings are on here when we get to that process. What I found was when I drew the first couple of patterns, when I cut it to the leather, when I traced it onto the leather and cut the leather, it was a little too small. So make sure your pattern is a little bigger. Reason being is the leather is thicker than the paper, than the cardboard is. So give yourself a little bit of room. You don't want to come up too short. Better to be long than short. And then what I did was I just put the gun in and checked it. Now the key elements to a good holster, so they say, as most of us gun guys know, the distance between the leather of the holster and the grip itself, so you can get a good combat grip without anything getting in your way, and having the leather low enough for some of the controls, such as like the magazine releases, and this one happens to do it. And I am putting a sweat shield on this one. The next process will be taking the pattern, tracing it out on the leather, and cutting the leather. I'll be back. Alright, we're on to the tracing the pattern out on the piece of leather and cutting it out. What I'm using is veg tan leather, 6 to 7 ounce. You can use thinner or thicker, but it seems like most guys kind of stick with the 6 to 7 for holsters. It's not the best piece of leather because I'm just learning, so I didn't want to spend a fortune on like Herman Oak leather, but it's real good quality. And the leather and all the tools that I'm using in the video I've gotten from Tandy Leather. Great company to deal with. They have everything you need to do anything with leather crafting. So what I did was I just take my template, put it on the piece of leather, and trace it out. Now I've done a few prior to this, and I've seen a lot of guys using pencil or pen to trace it out. But for me, I could never get that line off there enough, and little spots, it shows up right through the oil dye. So what I did, which I'm sure a lot of guys do, is I'm just going to use a scratch awl, and I'm going to trace out the pattern. Now serious leather crafters, they seem to use a tool called a head knife or a round knife. They're pretty expensive, and I wasn't sure if I was really going to get into this hobby or not, so I didn't want to invest that kind of money into that tool. Some tools you definitely need. There's specific tools for leather crafting, but for now I'm just using a utility knife. What I did is just follow the line. I try to keep it as up and down as I can, so it's a nice, halfway decent cut. But don't really worry about that, or I haven't really worried about that, because what I do after I cut it is I take it out to my drill press with a drum sander, a drum sand disc, and I clean up all these edges. So the leather is all cut out now. I traced my pattern, took my time, cut it, and what we're going to do now is bring it out to the drill press and sand all these edges, clean them up a little bit. Be right back. We're on to the sanding process. I'm out at my drill press, got the sanding drum in. The one thing I forgot to tell you about when you were making the patterns, do yourself a favor. Any of these tight radiuses, make them so it'll fit nice and neat in the sanding drum. If not, you're going to have trouble getting this cleaned up. So make it easier for yourself. It took me a couple tries to figure that one out. I'm going to give a quick sand to each of these, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these as close as I can get them, hold them by my hand, and clean them up together and get them kind of close. And later in the process, after we do a few things, we'll neaten that up even more, but I figure I'm out here anyway, I might as well try to get them close now. Be right back. First rough sanding is done. I just went around with some heavy coarse sandpaper and just cleaned up the edges a little bit better, made the curves in them a little more round. There'll be another sanding step later on in the process. That'll do it for part one. This will probably be like a 3 or 4 parter. I know nobody wants to watch an hour video, so I'll split them up. And in the next one, we'll go on to beveling the edges, putting a stitch line, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Hope everybody's safe out there. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.